Today we had to endure quite a big correction. The fund is down 14%. I've been talking a lot about the inclusion of David Deutsch's book, The Beginning of Infinity, so it was a little bit more philosophical, a bit more high level, epistemological, and certainly very important. Like I always say in the hedge fund business, you need to do the thinking way before you act, otherwise you have no chance in this business. Nevertheless, today I think it's a bit more of a parochial episode. It's simply we're down 14%. I think we need to revisit what's going on a daily basis here and what are the factors that are driving the performance. This is a Not Even Wrong podcast. It's October 28, 2020. This is Krim Delco. For the day, the fund is down 14%. The market's down 3%. For the year, we're up 193.5%. The market is up roughly 3%. For the year, we're outperforming by something around 190%. So if you put $100 in Orange Capital Partners on January 1st, you would have $293 today. The same thing in the S&P 500 would give you $103. So the main performer today, of course, is Tesla. Since it's the largest position, it also impacts our P&L the most. I think since the local peak that we had on October 15th, when we were up 230%, now we're up 193%. So this is 37% correction. This is quite a drawdown, of course. Given that the numbers are very large, because Tesla has done so well that we are now, like I keep saying, we're up 200 and something percent. So when you have these kinds of numbers, you will have also large daily volatility. So a normal 5 to 10% move during the day is possible now, and we've had it in the last few weeks more regularly. The point I want to make, though, is more fundamental. The point is that we are driven by a second wave of COVID, which is driving the market crazy. Volatility is going up, uncertainty, scare, fear. People are doing what they've been doing last April and May, which is basically knee-jerk reactions by politicians. I think I don't want to go into the politics and all these things, but here's what I want to say about what's going on in the market and a few comments about why it's justified that the market is scared. First of all, a second wave is not a good thing. People will not travel. People will not go out. The spending will be muted. Not that much, though. People spend on other things. People still spend on rent and things like that, on cars. But there will be a muted discretionary spending activity, no question about that. I think the main problem here is that we've had now 8 months of COVID and we've learned nothing. This is the fundamental problem here. We've learned nothing. Our measures are the same. They're measures that have no explanation. And to use David Deutsch's argumentation, we are really acting like chicken without a head here. This is not David Deutsch's words, this is my words. But what David Deutsch would say, and he said that in a tweet yesterday, we just lack knowledge. We lack knowledge about how to treat this COVID. And instead of all the so-called experts saying, we don't know, and then let's make this a political decision because we don't know. We simply don't know what to do. And then make it political. So let's talk about how much sacrifice should we impose on children? How much sacrifice on small businesses? Instead, we have this, sorry, I apologize for being political here, but it's coming from the left side of the political spectrum in the United States, where we have this feeling that we all should show solidarity to some imaginary suffering body, old people or obese people, or it's very difficult to even pin down who exactly is suffering here, but somebody is suffering, and we should all show solidarity, and therefore we're all leveling the playing field on all the fronts. The schools are doing pass-fail, the economy is closed down, so competition cannot happen, sports is not happening. There are all these efforts, and I believe it's a creeping socialist type of thinking that is unfortunately growing even more stronger now with this second COVID wave. And this is the scare. In my view, this is what's scaring the market, because if you take out competition, from the marketplace. And I don't care if it's schools or businesses, if you start creeping into this narrative of, oh, well, we're all suffering, we all need to sacrifice. And at the same time, you are sacrificing without even mentioning many, many people. You're throwing people under the bus, even though you're not saying it. And that's the really scary thing. We're throwing small businesses under the bus. We're throwing the travel industry under the bus. We're throwing kids under the bus. We're throwing athletes under the bus. There's so many things we're doing, and this so-called solidarity that we're showing has nothing to do with solidarity. Yesterday, I listened to an interview by, I don't want to mention names, but this person is one of those intellectuals that I think is the main reason why we are losing our faith in experts, because the person, of course, is a high tenured professor at a very prestigious university in the United States on the East Coast. And the person is using, first of all, is scaring people, saying that this is bad. Second, using narratives such as, oh, this is like the plague in 1500 in Baghdad or something like that. So using non-explanatory details which are irrelevant to the fact, and this is very much David Deutsch, where if an explanation where the actual ingredients of the explanation, the factors which are driving the explanation, have nothing to do with the problem that we're trying to solve. And this is what Wolfgang Pauli called, you're not even wrong. You're not even wrong by invoking the plague of the Middle Ages to this COVID situation, because you're not even wrong. It has nothing to do with each other, other than, yeah, it's a pandemic. But this is like saying a hurricane and an earthquake are the same thing, and we should treat San Francisco should do the same thing like New Orleans when they're exposed to a catastrophe. Well, no. I mean, we have to. Everything is very specific, very detailed. There's lots of differences in the way we should treat all these issues. So anyway, let's get back to the point here. I think we've lost our faith in so-called specialists because they don't have knowledge, and that by itself doesn't make them bad people. What is bad is that those people who are sitting in those chairs, the health professionals, the academics, a lot of them, not all of them, are not humble enough to say, we don't know, so we are not going to make decisions. To make decisions such as a full lockdown and things like that are at this point not informed decisions. They are not explanatory knowledge. They are simply knee-jerk reactions at the best, and at the worst, they are even political decisions where people are driving their own agenda. So I don't want to go into that either. This is a very different topic. But my point here, and this is absolutely key. If you are an expert in a field and you have explanatory knowledge, your narrative has to be is, has, there cannot be maybe, could be, it has to be is, has, this is like that, it has that impact. That's the language you use. If you cannot use those words, if you cannot explain, if I built the Golden Gate Bridge, I don't say, well, the bridge may last because it may be that I have potentially the right formulas to make sure that the thing doesn't crash. My language is very determined. If your language is determined, if it's deterministic, then that's fine. Then go ahead and be an expert and educate me, and I'll listen to you and I'll pay you. If not, get out of my way. Stand in line like everybody else and vote for the political decision, because we humans, guess what? We humans have the ability to make decisions under uncertainty. Maybe that's what differentiates us from everybody else on this planet, that we have explanatory knowledge. And even when we don't have it, we understand that we don't have it. This is the key. This is what really makes humans sets humans apart from animals or other species, that we know what we know and we don't what we don't know. And then we have to make a political decision. That's why we have politics in the first place. If there's any reason why we have politics, then that's because there are always decisions that cannot be algorithmatized. That's what politics is all about. Otherwise, we could just have a computer run. If, like, for example, the the San Francisco public transport system can be run by computers. There's no political decisions. The bus has to run, it has to stop, it has to go, it has to, stop at 11 and start at 6 a.m. And but there are situations in life where we have to allocate resources, make decisions under uncertainty, make decisions that maybe impact people more here than there, and all these things. And that's fine. We are in a world that requires these things. So now let's not pretend that we have all the knowledge while we know that we don't have it. And then the worst thing is, because we don't have that knowledge, we let people with pedigree, people with so-called status, make decisions that we know they don't know what they're doing. And then we get frustrated. And this is exactly what's happening. The frustration with health professionals, the frustration with mayors, and even like elected leaders, even our top brass in Washington. Frustration is growing because they are not doing what they should be doing. And what they should be doing is the following. The health professionals should either put up or shut up. Either you put up solutions that have explanatory knowledge as the base, or you shut up. And then we go into a political conversation. For example, we don't know what to do with this. This is my recommendation. And then I'm gonna finish this episode with a little bit of a forecast of how we think this will pan out and what it means for our portfolio. But here is my recommendation, or here is my best wish. If I could wish the next 6 months to evolve, here's how I would like this to happen. The US election is next week. Whoever wins takes office and then starts making the hard decisions. You were elected. You don't have to be afraid for the next 4 years of anything. Just make the tough decisions. And the right thing to do is to say, everybody goes back to their lives under the premise of course, be as careful as you can. If you want, wear masks. Even indoors you should. Outdoors, I don't think they're necessary, but wear them. Go on with your lives. Open up everything and let people who are scared, let them stay away and give them support. So, for example, my son has a soccer team. They can't play because, again, knee-jerk reaction by bureaucrats in California is there's no competitive games for kids. We change this to there is competitive games, and those that don't want to play still have the opportunity to train. They still have the opportunity to participate, but they don't have to play. They're not going to be punished. So the teams will have rosters of maybe 25 or 30 kids, of which half will play, the other half won't play. And, of course, there will be a sort of a pecking order and all that stuff, but that's going to happen anyway. So let's not get entangled with these things. Let's give them a chance to opt out, and let's give everybody else the chance to keep playing. The schools are going to be like they always have been, competitive, and then let's give people support that need it, but let's not turn it into equity where the outcomes are the same. Let's give people as much opportunity as we can so we can bring in as many people as we can into the pool of educated kids with good grades and all that stuff. And in the economy, of course, competition works. We know that it works better than anything else. We want products and services to be delivered. There are lots of businesses that, in my view, don't need to be saved. I think there's a lot of, even in the travel industry, in the car industry, there's a lot of industries that are overdue with disruption, and that is now happening much faster than before. But let's get the economy going, and let's give people support where they need it, instead of this one shot fits all, knee-jerk, lockdown, everything, equity type of solution that we have. So this is what we would like to see. Now, here's what we think will happen. First of all, we believe there is hope that after the US election, things will get better. So I am really hopeful about that, because no matter who wins, these are educated, normal people, leaders, and I don't care what your views is or politically is. If somebody gets elected president, they have to have some sort of responsibility, and they will have, so they will take action. So we think that it will abate a bit. We also think that this whole second wave is of course a function of the cold weather in many places in the world, in the northern hemisphere, and therefore hopefully is just like the flu is a wave, and it will abate also. And we will see, what we don't want to see is more stimulus. That is not helpful. We believe that the stimulus, in fact, is even worse because it just postpones the tough decisions. And the tough decisions are, like I said, that we have to see finally sorting out of the economy in the weak and the strong. Let the strong survive, let the weak die. Let's reallocate resources to where the productivity is. Let's give support to people who are stranded. Of course, we don't want to have a favela type situation like in Brazil where there's 5% of the rich and everybody else lives in the slums. We don't want any of that stuff. Nobody wants that. But we have to have a market-driven economy where involuntary choice is still the premise of any kind of action, where interaction between human beings is free, and where expression and freedom is free. Like we said many times on this podcast, the expression of freedom is the fundamental source of wealth, and wealth creation is the best thing we can do for everybody, because only through wealth creation and progress people have upward mobility and a chance to have a better life. And this is what we all want for our own families and for everybody else. At least that's how we think in terms of at Orange Capital Partners. So to summarize, also our positioning right now, we had a drawdown of 40%, which is of course very concerning. That's why we're having this episode, and these are our thoughts. We are positioning ourselves, as always, in a very large exposure to disruptive technologies. We are also ready to take much stronger drawdowns and still survive. Like I said many times, the one thing we can do at Orange, the one degree of freedom, is to pick the right investments. We don't trade, but we have to make sure that we don't get caught things like margin calls. We have to make sure our leverage is reasonable so we can survive even much bigger drawdowns, and that is the case right now. So to conclude, our positioning is we are still long Tesla, by far the largest position. We are long the CRISPR index, which is our second largest position. We have Microsoft, and then we have call options on RTX and Intel, which are almost written down to zero. So these are just really literally free options at this point for us. We're not going to spend too much time on these positions anymore because the macro situation and some of the individual drawbacks with Intel in particular have brought down those stocks. So we're not going to spend too much time on those. We're going to focus on the disruptive innovation that drives our portfolio and our performance. And there we are still very optimistic about the future. Thank you.